Eggplants. They come in a variety of sizes and flavors and are a delight to grow in your garden. So let's look at our first eggplant variety for today. This variety is called Shooting Stars, and this is a relatively new variety of eggplant that was introduced by Burpee Seeds and is now commonly available in most of the garden stores. So eggplants can be started 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost date in your area. This gives you a head start into the growing season. I'm using a ready-to-use mix here, the seeds, some labels, and a Sharpie to write down what you just sowed. And I've got some questions from our viewers regarding how deep to sow the seeds. So I'm going to show you a close-up of what I do to sow my seeds. So the thumb rule is that you need to sow the seeds as deep as the size of the seed itself. So you sow one seed in each of the compartments that you will be starting your plants in. Since you will be transplanting each one separately, you do not need to sow two seeds. If you want, you can sow two seeds, but then you would need to thin out and leave the strongest plant that you will transplant. Once this is done, you can lightly cover your seeds. You can now set your seeds inside a greenhouse or any other germination kit you use for starting your seeds. It takes about 10 days for the seeds to germinate, and then once they grow to about 6 inches or so, you can transplant them into bigger containers. So this container that you see here is a 16-inch wide container and holds about 7 to 8 gallons of soil. Now, although this is a little overkill for eggplants, I recommend that you use this, or you could use a smaller container like this 10-inch container, which is about 3 to 4 gallons. Both these container sizes are great to grow your eggplants. Now this plant that you see here is the Shooting Stars eggplant again, and I was a little late in planting this eggplant for the season. So this was my first eggplant on this plant, and it looked pretty good. It had a little bit of a brown spot below, which I initially thought was something like blossom and rot, but that was not the case. This was a perfectly healthy eggplant, and I guess the eggplant just grew that way and had a brown bottom. As the season went by, I was getting a lot more eggplants from this plant, and you can see that the Shooting Stars is a great eggplant variety to grow. This next eggplant variety was actually a little bit of a surprising variety to me because it was given to me by one of my friends, and all that was labeled on the seed packet was brinjal, which is actually another name for eggplant. And this is a pretty looking eggplant, and I'm not sure what variety this is. This probably looks like Rosa Bianca or Purple Ball, and you can see a side-by-side comparison here, but I'm not really sure what variety the eggplant on the left is. If you have any ideas, please let me know, put in your comments, and I'll be more than happy to know. In any case, this was a prolific eggplant variety, and I was able to get a lot of harvests from this plant right throughout the season. And eggplants are heavy feeders, so if you're using a liquid fertilizer like seaweed or fish fertilizer, make sure you feed your plants at least every 2 weeks. They also love a little bit of Epsom salt throughout the growing season. So here you can see some of the eggplant varieties. The ones on the top are the Udalampet variety, which I will be discussing in the next section of the video. And you can also see the green eggplant, the Shooting Stars, as well as the brinjal variety of eggplant, which I'm not sure which variety that is. So if you live in an area that is warm throughout the year, you can leave your eggplants in the ground or in the container, also called as overwintering, so that you get a really good head start into the growing season. Basically, you have full grown eggplants even before your season begins. That's a great way to start your plants. And you can see this eggplant that I had overwintered at the beginning of the spring season. It was already producing these huge eggplants. Now, if you start your eggplants in spring, they usually start producing by summer. So by overwintering eggplants, I was able to harvest my eggplants right in the beginning of spring. This is again the shooting stars variety of eggplants, and it has a little bit of slug damage on one of them, but overall very healthy eggplants. So I bought the seeds of this Udalampet variety of eggplant on Amazon, and this was a very interesting eggplant variety to grow. I think it's named after a city in India, and the eggplant that it produces are very similar to the shooting stars variety. However, they are a little bit smaller in size. Now, this is just my personal opinion, but the smaller sized eggplants like this variety, as well as the shooting stars, are much more flavorful than the large varieties like Black Beauty. I think it's because they have less water in them. They tend to be more flavorful when cooked, and I just like the eggplants that are smaller in size. You can see this Udalampet variety of eggplant here, and they look pretty good and they taste absolutely delicious. So if you're wanting to try a new eggplant variety, do try out this variety. Now, this eggplant variety is one that I had covered in a lot of detail in one of my previous videos, and when it ripens, it turns into this yellow eggplant, which is really interesting. The green or this yellow eggplant also are very creamy and delicious varieties that you must try to grow in your garden. So I hope this video inspires you to try out new eggplant varieties in your garden. And if you've already been growing different eggplant varieties, do let me know, put in your comments so that I know what kind of varieties my YouTube viewers are growing. It would be a pleasure to know your experiences. And which varieties of eggplants do you like? Which ones do you find delicious? Which one do you find easy to grow? And I'll see you again soon. Happy gardening!